Welcome to Ryan Rambles. It seems the show where increasingly anything goes, because we're going to try something a little different this time around. Normally I don't do video versions of these. Also, since this is kind of more of a podcast, it hasn't seemed all that necessary, and whether you believe it or not, much of the other videos that do go on the channel are a bit more scripted and even produced or manicured, but this is not so much that, and will never be, so it's probably a bad reason to do a video version. But I thought, because of some of the things I have to talk about this time around, it might be worth it. So I'm doing the thing where, this might be new for Ryan Runs and the channel and whatever, but not for anybody else. I'm going to put the video version on Patreon. So if you think you can benefit by seeing some of the things, I won't leave you completely hanging if you're just listening. I will try and describe some of the things I've got in store, but if you think a visual will add to that at all, then I invite you to go check it out over there. It probably will be a patron only post. So sign up. That's where I'll get them. Where did my grid go? So I record, there we go. Right in the middle. I record on the Atomos Ninja 5, Ninja V. So they've recently done a huge update, biggest since I've had the device, so in years. And looks like it defaulted everything, but we're back to good. So the thought behind this episode, originally actually it was just making chasers, because the big thing that happened last week is I finally did a new episode of Chasers, the show I may have just about started the channel with, and hadn't revisited in at least a couple years. So I did a new episode of that. It was a lot of fun. I forgot how much, if I had continued going with the series, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. But since I took such a long break, I had to go back and reread kind of everything I had. In fact, ended up being a good thing, because first visual thing, this book came out in the interim. And yes, it deals mostly with X-Men Series 1, which I already did an episode on, so would have been useful back then, but in that they revisited a lot of the people and processes behind just the cards in general that they were pumping out over the 90s. This was still useful for the last episode I did. So, and if you're wondering, actually, I know I keep talking about all this stuff I'm reading for those episodes. I'm going to do, in fact, could maybe release early, a list of all the sources I've been using, which is well over 10 long at this point. So that's part of what took so long to get back into this latest episode. But now that it's up, it's been kind of a trip, because just about everything has changed. I mentioned this at the top of the video too, that it might be instructive to see, if you can, the changes that have come about since the last episode. So since episode 4 and episode 5 of Chasers, because all of the equipment I used to do it is, I believe, completely different, except for maybe this microphone, the SM7B. But everything else, new camera. That's why you'll notice the exposure. Also, it's exposed correctly. I don't know if I even tried to expose. I don't even think I shot in log for the episode before. So color, exposure should all be a lot better looking, which is nice, because I think for the previous episodes I shot on this spot. Oh man, am I adventurous enough to move the camera? No, I'm not. I know what I'll do though. Check this out. So I'm going to supplement what I'm talking about with my iPhone here. So that's what I'm looking at whenever I record these. But last time I did Chasers, it was on this desk, which you can't really tell, and this is usually the only light that I'm dealing with, pointing at my monitors. Sorry if I got too away from the microphone there. That's where most of the light, like I don't have a ring light like most people have to kind of get their face going. It's just these monitors, and I actually think it works out pretty well. But I also bought that light. You'll remember I did a video on that, which is doing great, but it's just reflecting off of the garage door at this point. So the first episodes of Chasers were here, so it was a little darker. The last one I did was over on the L-shape extension that I've since had. And yes, there are many reasons why I shouldn't be doing this part of the video at all. But just to illustrate a little bit, and again, provide you patrons with just that much more context. But hopefully when you look at those two episodes, you can see there is a big difference. Also, I use a completely different editor. Back then, I was even still using Adobe Premiere. Now I'm using DaVinci Resolve exclusively. So again, it's all little things that I can look at the color. Certainly, DaVinci has always been better at color management and notice. But even just recently, I've changed how I used to just put DaVinci to manage the color, and then as long as I told it that I was shooting in S-Log 2 or 3, and now I just use the ACES transform. Don't you love all this stuff? Anyway, it appears the color seems a little bit more true to life. So everything should look better about the most recent Chasers episode. The perhaps more exciting news about that series, and when I say this episode started off as kind of making Chasers, I'm going to talk about everything that I had to talk about, but also I'm going to keep going and just talk about all of the shows on the channel basically and what's in store for them for the future. So this might be a little bit of, is that navel gazing? I kind of like that term anyways. So we're going to talk a lot about where the channel is headed within the next maybe year or so. So the most exciting thing I can tell you about Chasers is when I started that show, I thought, okay, this is going to be, I didn't know. If you go back and watch the very first trailer for that show, like I barely figured it out when I was filming that trailer. I thought it was just going to be something where Evelyn and I would open up, because we'd already been into this, and I talk about this a little bit on the last episode of Chasers, where we had recently started collecting these cards from the 90s and forming these sets together. And it was a really fun thing for us to do. She's grown up so much in the last, 2 years, just since 3 years since we were doing this. But we used to just like, not every single night, but if it was a good day or I remembered to do it or I wasn't busy, I'd go up there with a pack and we'd open it and we'd see the characters and read the back some and then put them in their sleeves. So it was a fun kind of daddy-daughter thing that we did for a bit that has turned into Chasers, kind of. Again, I thought that would be the weekly video idea, but it turned more into, man, where do these cards come from? Who did them? But I'm going to transition that show because I thought in the future it might have to do with collectibles just on a permanent basis, like which box can I open this season type thing. But I've since decided that it will kind of revert back to the initial idea, but not just for comic book cards. So for this very next episode, which I'm kind of itching to do just to get the season kind of completed, but we'll see. It's going to be, yes, a little bit more of the history because this is, it's a transition point for those cards and those collectibles. So it's a good stepping off point as well. But what we're going to step off into is this idea of Evelyn and I opening a pack on camera and putting it, we'll start with Marvel Series 5. We're already halfway through when I decided to do these videos. So we'll get back into that and see if we can complete Marvel Universe Series 5 or 1994 or whatever you want to call it. And then, I don't know how this came about. Visual thing number 2. I think I was just looking this stuff up and just the internet, the algorithm got me, has got to be what it is. But I saw, although I do remember these, I did collect a few of these. I don't have any of them, so I don't know what I did with them necessarily, but I'm holding a box of DC Cosmic Cards Inaugural Edition, which was also done in a partnership with Impel. There's no way I should, the autofocus is trying its best here, but these sealed boxes of these, a measly $50-ish, like all of the Marvel cards were before the market exploded again, like I talked about in that last Chasers episode. So I think every season of Chasers from here on out is going to be what the show is going to turn into with this next episode, where Evelyn and I just open the cards, we might read off the backs, talk about any memories we have of the characters we have, I'm probably be introducing some of these memories or characters to Evelyn. Although I don't know how into the weeds the DC cards get, like how crazy did they go with some of the character pulls, because DC's got some crazy character pulls they could do. So it'll be interesting to see, I think. But then, and I actually consulted with Candy on this one, I never completed X-Men Series 2, which was another kind of post-Image set for Marvel, where no Jim Lee, I think Kubert did it, Andy Kubert, right? Who is great, and that series is no slouch, really. But I never completed it, and when I looked up how much the boxes were going for, they're a little bit more expensive than the DC cards, 70, I think, but after shipping and tax, it was closer to 100 or something like that. So still not horrible, but again, I was only missing 18 cards plus chase cards. So I went to Candy and I was like, hey, I can either just be like, hey, I never completed this, it's part of the story. I was going to include it in the previous Chasers episode, but decided against it by the end of this conversation. And asked her if she thought I should get a box, make it a season, or something else, or even just do something maybe patron specific, because it was incomplete, so more of a behind the scenes or what I would have done type thing. And she said buy the box. So her fault, absolutely. In fact, I haven't locked the door for this show, because if she walks in, she's just going to make her part of the show. We might get a walk on this show. So I got that, you know where this is going probably already before I even finished. A box of sealed. Also, you can tell it's got the Skybox, since it was Skybox by then. X-Men Series 2, and it's way smaller than I thought it was going to be, or than I remembered, or than the DC box I already showed you. But it's because it is only a 100 card set, so that's kind of a good reason to go for it too. But each of these boxes, 36 packs, 6 cards per pack. So again, a little bit smaller, but considering there's only 100 cards in the set, I feel like we're pretty good as far as if we see the DC box here, 36 packs, 12 cards per pack. So I think we got a pretty good chance of completing the sets. The dirty truth is, for the X-Men Series 2 set, I have my half completed set already. So definitely going to be able to complete that, even if I have to dig into some of the original cards that I collected in the 90s. But normally the story would end there, right? Comic books. Who knew? Well, my mom knew. And that's another fun story, but she digs into these things. Hi, Mom. And I've received birthday presents. Oh, gosh, how into detail do we want to go? I've got a supplemental episode of Chasers in mind where I go through stuff that has come into my possession since I started these episodes. It wasn't included in the original run necessarily. So I've got one of those coming that also might be patron specific, or I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I'll tell you all about that stuff later. For now, let me tell you about what she told me about. I guess the name Ken Barroff, since I found that in that X-Men book that I was telling you about. That's how I found out who the Impel guy was. And this makes sense. I bet this is where the DC cards came from as well. When they did that partnership with Marvel in 1990 to begin with, and it just exploded, Ken Barroff, I'm sure, just started putting feet in every pot. Is that a... and had partnerships with DC for those cosmic cards, and had partnerships with, oh gosh, who would the partnership be with? Maybe Paramount in some way for these Star Trek cards. And these hold the record for cheapest cards available, because I got Series 1 and Series 2, which came out in the same year, by the way, 1991, for $30. And then shipping in some taxes. So that'll probably also be a season. I don't know if I make, the fact that these came out in the same year, I don't know how much of a Series 1 and Series 2 we're actually looking at here. I haven't looked up anything, didn't know they existed before my mom said something. So they were just so cheap. And I had at that point already decided on what the future episodes of Chasers were going to be. So I'm like, I'm on a roll here, guys. So that's Chasers. I'm honestly super excited about it. It is really fun to go through these cards and see what I get. Even the Star Trek stuff, I know it's not comic books, but it'll be kind of the same thing. Evelyn and I watched, and my wife, who may show up on these videos. I feel like I haven't invited her because she's fine. Every time I tell her about what we're doing, she's like, I think she's happy to not be necessarily included in some ways. We'll see when she listens to this. But even the Star Trek stuff, right? Like, we've watched Next Generation. I've never watched the original series. I've tried a couple times. Eventually, I'm sure it'll stick. But I'm 3 seasons into Deep Space Nine for the first time, actually. And Voyager, even Enterprise. I feel like I'm missing some. Don't ask me about Discovery. But those obviously wouldn't be in those sets anyway. So I feel like we'll have some fun conversations there anyways. Evelyn was young enough that I feel like those cards will just kind of tickle something and she'll barely figure it out. Although I think we're on the cusp of... She started to get back into Deep Space Nine with me. They were both out. I would every season revisit it with them and be like, hey, it's getting better. Because I know some people love Deep Space Nine. To me, the first couple seasons are kind of slow. By Star Trek standards, certainly by Next Generation standards, which if you remember, those ran concurrently for a while until Generation was canceled, and I think it was only Deep Space Nine. But now just into the, again, I think 3rd season, there are some absolutely top tier Star Trek episodes for any of the series. So it's really starting to get good. So I'm thinking when, also Worf's about to show up, we start this newest season. Evelyn's already started watching with me again. Probably my wife will get into it and we might finish out that show in that way. So if you never watched Deep Space Nine or any Star Trek series, again, besides the new ones, although I've heard Strange New Worlds is something to see. I haven't started that yet, but skip Discovery. I'm sorry. Maybe it does some cool things. This is going again. Anything goes. If you never watched any of the older episodes of Star Trek or series of Star Trek, and you can't find a show to get through, and why aren't any of these as good as they used to be? Deep Space Nine is that. It's as good as it used to be. So big recommendation. There you go. So that's Chasers. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the I kind of call them tech videos, but the product things videos, I think, is the actual label that they have. And I've talked recently about how I want to kind of officialize them in a way, give them their own series name, do a little bit more with the graphics rather than the whole, it's so placeholder at this point. It's like just the black geometry logo for Ryan Runs and some white text on top of it that isn't even italicized. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to my actual channel here so I can look at it and talk about it. Yeah, so the last one I did about the DJI Mic 2, which was a very fun video to put together. And again, I said this several times in the video, is something I do when I get a new device anyways. I just put it through its paces, especially when it comes to microphones, do a lot of comparisons and stuff like that. And by the way, I think, because I didn't actually listen to it myself until I was done with the video, I think I came out with the DJI Mic 2 with the DJI Lavalier, not even the onboard microphone, but the lavalier being the top combo there. So that's probably what you'll see me use in the future when I do these tech or unboxing videos. So I can tell you about a few I have in the wings as far as those go. One of them is well, I could slightly unbox it to show you before I do an actual unboxing video of it, but it's the DJI, oh gosh, is it the Osmo? No, the Osmo is the one with the built-in camera, right? Okay, fine. Visual thing number 3. It is the Osmo Mobile 6. Glad I brought that out for you. Number 1, we're going to talk about that a little bit more when it comes to older school, that other series that is kind of taking a break. I'll tell you why in a second. But that's going to be the next unboxing video. And then I've got a few more along the lines of, so the second most viewed, no, I'm wrong, because I did put some of my old video game achievement videos up on the channel. My 4th most viewed video at 4.5K at this point is when I fixed the kick drum device, the KD-10 on my V drums behind me there. that was apparently incredibly useful, which is why I made it, because it didn't exist, and has a ton of good feedback, and apparently helped out a lot of people. Love it. It's great. If you've been paying attention to the Daily Drum stuff, the cymbals on that kit are unreliable, Roland. I don't know what, and the issue is known, I think, for the most part, even though as I've tried to fix it, I'm not running into a huge amount of success. But it appears the rubber deteriorates after too long. I'm not, honestly, when it comes to electronic drums, even just drums in general, well, that's not true. An actual kit probably be doing me a lot more favors besides the noise at this point. But they just get beat to crap by design. So designing one of those to hold up, I don't envy that person. But the cymbals, Roland has not figured it out yet, it appears, because the rubber is deteriorating. The cymbal I first had problems with, I was able to send back for a warranty replacement. That was at the same time they told me that the kick drum was not covered, even though they don't tell you anywhere to not use the felt side of the beater, which is what tears that apart. So whatever. They replaced one for me, and then another one went out, and then I switched that. You'll notice I don't use all of them for the Daily Drum. So I just switched out a good one, but that one has since started erroring. So it's been this entire thing. I finally took it apart completely because they say sometimes the rubber deterioration is the thing. Put it all back together, and it's still not perfect with the rubber on. It might be because I don't have a good way to attach it. I don't have the best double-sided tape yet, so I don't know, TBD on that one, but I'm going to do a video anyways with the other broken one where I take it all apart and talk about what could go wrong based on everything I've looked at it already, and then put it back together and see if maybe I can fix that one as opposed to the other one, which at this point, again, you'll see in the videos, I'm just using completely backwards without the rubber on at all. So it looks real funny, but it's actually at least working. So the only other ideas I have for the tech/unboxing videos is I've been through VCR hell in the past 6 months or so, and I thought it would be fun to talk about that because it's culminated in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 VCRs and a deck that I already had. So I was going to talk about, if you decide to go through that hell as well, I could maybe save you some time, but also it's interesting. I had no idea what VCR ownership and certainly tech experience has turned into in even just the past 10 years. So thought that would be a fun video. That will go up, I think, with those tech or product things videos that I normally do. But maybe the most interesting idea in that realm, especially when it comes to kind of officializing it, is you might need to talk me off the ledge here, guys. I'm toying with titling that series Runboxing, etc., which is obviously a joke on Ryan Runs and unboxing, but also maybe mailboxes, etc. For some reason, it kind of triggers that same. I don't know. That's why I say you might have to talk me off the ledge on this one. If Runboxing, etc. is something I should not name that series of videos, speak now or forever hold your peace, because I feel like the etc. is also going to cover any of the times I, take apart a cymbal or a piece of my drum kit or an old radio, still maybe the least viewed video on that playlist, but I kind of had the most fun with creatively. So real great playlist we got going there. Go check it out. Let me know. Runboxing, etc. What else we got? Cinematic. I am halfway through Prodigal Son. This cinematic. I love doing cinematic. It's done. It's defined. It got graphics, and it involves watching movies that I am loving. So I don't have much to say in the way of the future of that series. It's just going to keep going. I'm going to keep watching these Kung Fu movies. I'm halfway through Prodigal Son because it turned out I don't have Martial Club. Those are the two on my radar. So I don't know if we'll go back to Martial Club, but come back for The Prodigal Son from 1981, another Yuen Biao movie. And I guess I could tell you my idea this far out, there's over 100 movies, I think, left on that list of mine. So it's still going to be a bit, even though these are still just, 12 to 18 minute episodes. It's not nothing to put one out every week. But I think for season 2, I might do Godzilla movies, which I kind of started watching a bit ago in lead up to, actually, it wasn't even -1. It was, obviously, because that just came out. It was Shin Godzilla. I was greatly looking forward to watching that, so I thought I would catch up. And then I think in abbreviating that list, I never got through it, and I never got through to Shin Godzilla. So I thought that would be a fun season 2 for that. So that's 100 episodes from now. So we'll see, but just so you know. Older School, I did mention that. So it's raining. It's winter here in California. Actually, it might officially be spring. It was also a very mild winter, but it doesn't take much, obviously, certainly when it comes to rain, to make things unskateable. And also summer is a little bit of an advantage because I'm going to have to return to my high school to do some of those tricks. So that might obviously be better. I was planning to do that on a Saturday anyways, but I think it'll be obviously a little bit easier. Fun fact, and Brian, you can out me if you're out there. Other Brian, I feel like I keep mentioning Brian's. I am friends with the current principal of that school, so you might not want to know that I'm planning on skateboarding there to some extent soon. So it would be a great part of the video though if he showed up, right? And I'm just like, oh, it's my friend, the principal of my old high school. So the only thing I want to mention about Older School, when I get that going, is that, in fact, this could apply to Chasers as well. I am becoming aware of maybe my least favorite thing. Wow, I guess that's quite a statement, actually. One of my least favorite things about the various internet algorithms out there is that they're very good at showing you, once you put your idea out into the world, they're very good at showing you people that have already done that. So, I mean, I never, I guess, was under the illusion that this was an original idea, so to speak. I was just extremely excited about it in my own right. So I wasn't, this isn't me saying, I can't believe somebody else thought of this. To me, that's pretty obvious, but I like how the internet puts that in my face. So Chasers is one of these because, in fact, now that I've really tried to look up what's going on in the card space nowadays, because it's so foreign to me, it's even more so started to feed me. There's a ton of videos out there of people opening up packs of cards and stuff like that, even the cards that I'm talking about opening up. Again, my hook will be myself and Evelyn to some extent, and whatever else I can add to that. Also, with all of these, I'm trying to get out of the house more, I promise. So I did that a little bit with Chasers when we started. You'll remember I went to where I thought some of the old stores were when I was collecting these, but haven't done that much with anything else. So don't worry if you're getting bored of this particular garage. But this happens with Older School too. Apparently, Steve-O has done this before. And again, it's still different. It's not what I'm going to be producing, but it's I forget. I don't even think it has a series name. It's just some short Facebook videos that he was doing or something where it's him versus old Steve-O. I forget how it's termed or whatever, but stay tuned for my better version of those is all I'll say. And the last thing I'll talk about is actually Daily Drum, because I know it's always just kind of there. I don't even hit, you shouldn't, if you're subscribed to the channel, which please subscribe, you shouldn't even be getting notifications when a Daily Drum drops, because it is 5 days a week. I'm like, oh, it'll clog up people's feeds. I don't know. I don't know. If that's something you want your feed clogged up with, let me know. I can do that. I've even toyed with the idea of, because I don't even tweet very often, it wouldn't be more than other people tweet to just at the top of the morning put out whatever song I'm playing this day. And in most cases, whatever I wrote for the description would probably fit as well. So I don't know. Let me know. Again, I know I'm giving you a lot of homework this episode, but when it comes to the Daily Drum, you might have actually noticed there's already been a small facelift of sorts. Backgrounding might be strong, but I'm minimizing some of the game elements of it. So the actual notes, or what do they call that? Note highway from Rock Band will appear a little bit smaller in the corner, and I did some other really small graphical tweaks. But the big change, and I don't know if I'll call it a second season, but I might just call it like Daily Drum 2 or something like that, because it's going to be completely custom tracks, especially when I get through, and I've kind of put the brakes on purchasing some of that DLC. There's been a few scares as far as will this be available in the future as online stores go down and the Xbox 360 is not supported like it used to be, or Xbox Live is shutting down. I don't remember if that date has come out yet. July 24th? Which one is that? That is something. Anyways, as all these marketplaces go down, I'm like, well, if I don't buy these now, it is unknown, because where I get the custom tracks from, you can tell there has been some conversation about copyright there. Some of the tracks, I mean, it'll show you the ones that are authored by Harmonix, but if you click on them, they have typically gone to where you can download them on Xbox.com. So it's obvious at some point they were probably told to not do that, or the link was a halfway thing. I don't know. I'm almost scared to blow up that scene because of how cool it is just being able to find all these tracks that were never done. Or even, if it's a live track on the official, they can do the actual track and kind of vice versa. So there's still some gray area, but I'm again, kind of scared to even talk about it too much. But that's going to be season 2 of Daily Drum, or Daily Drum 2, however I title it. So I guess it might happen. And it's not like nobody knows. You can very easily, if I can very easily, you can very easily go out and look up how to do this yourself. So it's going to be a little bit more fun in that way, because there are a lot of kind of left field tracks within the custom scenes. There's lots of video game music, which this will allow me to do more themed weeks, which I've kind of only done for like the holidays and Taylor Hawkins, the two that you do them for. But with this, I'm like, I can do movie themed weeks, I can do TV themed weeks, and actually video game themed weeks, which I know seems fun for a video game. Every week is video game week, but they have songs from like NES games and stuff like that. So a lot of fun ideas as far as Daily Drum 2 goes. In fact, you know what? I could tell you about this too. So tell me if you've noticed, because I had it in my head at one point that when I got my iPhone, I was like, get the fancy, do the camera. It does 4K 60. I can use log, see how it goes. And it looked great, and that's what I've been using for Daily Drum ever since. But I kind of became self-aware of the naked lens, so to speak. Like I wouldn't do that with any other camera, and just shoving this in and out of my pocket all day. I'm like, that... I've never had an issue, even with the other phones. I've never been like, what's on the lens? Sometimes I'll have to wipe it off, but for the most part, it's never scratched. So I'm sure I'm just being overly cautious to some extent here, but I started looking up lens covers for the iPhone. And while I think there are more kind of lens cover-ish options out there, it seemed best option was one of these guys. In fact, it's a brand, but it's like a Amazon brand, Can I get the focus? There we go. Put it in front of my face. Fiorenzo. So it sounds Italian, is probably Chinese, but you put it just over your phone, in front of my face again. There it goes. And that's kind of the lens cover. It's not as removable as I would like, Initially, my idea was I put it on, I remove it to film like a lens cover, But it's not quite that removable, so I was like, well, we'll see how the image quality, if it's affected at all. And again, tell me, have a look, because I've been using it for months now. If you think it looks fine, I think it looks fine. So I'm not too worried about that. I am going to remove it for older school, which that's going to be the camera that Evelyn's going to be using with that Osmo Mobile, by the way, if I didn't mention that. That's what that's for. So I don't know. There, especially when you get outside with any filter or lens, this can be an issue. Just the oh gosh, what do they call that? With the rings or the flares, stuff like that. So I won't be using it for that, but for now and for this and for Daily Drum, it appears to be great, and it's providing the protection that I was looking for. So go check that out. Oh, also for older school. So since I am using my phone and I'm going to use it on that Osmo, it's going to be a bit of a MagSafe affair, which to be honest, I have not utilized. In fact, when it first came out, I pretty much dismissed it as kind of a gimmick, which Apple is not immune to nowadays. I also owned the Touch Bar MacBook Pro at one point, which never ever justified its existence beyond maybe that guy that got Doom to run on it, because it did I think showed up as an actual display to some extent, so you could hack it in some weird ways. But one of the things I'm going to do is as I create a rig, I guess you could say, out of this phone and that Osmo Mobile to give Evelyn something to use, I'm wanting to shoot in log wherever possible, because again, it does provide some, especially if we're going outdoors, some more flexibility when it comes to color and exposure and stuff like that. Although I haven't done a whole lot of tests on the Apple version of log. It does come off of the drive at the proper size. The files are nigh unusable. In fact, I want to say, speaking of shooting on this Ninja, the files that come off of the iPhone in log are bigger than the ones I think that come off of, and it's ProRes. They're both ProRes, so I don't know. I bought this because I'm going to have to, hopefully, if I want to shoot in log, figure out how to attach some SSD drive. I don't know if this is the one I use currently. It's just an old one. It's a T5 even. I think they're doing T7s nowadays. And so this, it's an encased MagSafe phone holder. And it's got sticky on the back. You just put it on anything. Autofocus never pulled that time, if you guys are wondering, podcast people. You just stick it on the back. Works real nice. So I think, I don't know, because this is also how it will attach to the holder. So I've still got to figure out something. I might need another one of these to make it so I can sandwich them or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to throw off the weight. I don't know. Haven't completely, some would say, didn't need to show you this yet. Figured out the rig as far as that goes. But that is the idea for older school once we get back at it. In the interim, I have considered doing an old school, the actual name of that video from the 90s that I made with my friends. I did a remastered version that's on the website. I have thought of doing a B-side version of that video because I do now have a lot of that footage that has not ever been used. I should at least provide that to the other people in that video. But these are things swirling up around in here that I thought I would also put on you for this episode of Ryan Rambles. But unless I'm mistaken, that's all I got. So this was fun. If the video was useful, I guess also let me know. I don't know that I want to do one of these every time. I don't know that one of these needs to be done every time. But again, I had some opportunities for visuals this time around that I thought wouldn't make it a bad idea altogether. So come hang out on Patreon. This also might take the place. I haven't done a text post on there. Usually I'll use those as a way of telling you about some of the behind the scenes stuff. I don't think I have any behind the scenes stuff left, so this might take the place of that to some extent. But if you're not signed up, if I didn't make this public, then thank you. I've completely lost the thread myself at this point. So we will see you for the next cinematic episode on Prodigal Son. That'll be the next video that comes out. So till then, goodbye.